Feeling lost after graduating from music school? Here are 3 steps to building a music career that you'll love. So many musicians graduate from music school full of high hopes about what their life is going to be like, the music that they'll play and the people they'll play with and the opportunities that are going to be there. You probably want creative fulfillment. You want to be able to play at the top of your game. You want to be able to get recognition and audience love, right? But the reality is that so often after graduating music school, many musicians end up feeling kind of lost. Not just lost, but you might even have injuries or burnout or performance anxiety, other emotional kinds of challenges, physical challenges, and even spiritual challenges like a lack of sense of direction in life. And so the dream that brought you to music school, that you might hope that your graduation is going to bring you to, that feels further and further away. So my name is Joseph Arnold, and I'm a violinist and Alexander technique teacher, director of the Soulforce Arts Institute. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why it is that you feel lost after having done so much work preparing for a career in music, graduating music school. And you're also going to know 3 really powerful steps that you can take to start building the career that you'll love, finding that sense of direction and fulfillment again. So if you want more content like this, please do visit my website, soulforcearts.com, where you can get all kinds of free resources on all these kinds of topics, creative fulfillment and freedom and building the career that you love. And you can also check out my book called Soulforce, How to Discover Your Artistic Purpose, Create More Freely, and Make Art That Matters. I'll put links down below. Okay, so here's the core reason why you might be feeling lost after graduating music school. Now, there might be a lot of reasons, but at least as far as the preparation that you've received, there's usually, for most music schools, a really big gap in the training. Or we might even say that a lot of music training is stuck in the 19th century. And what I mean by that is that the focus of musical training, the techniques that are taught, the skills that are taught, the kinds of relationships that are developed are all a product of the 19th century, a very 19th century outlook. Just to give you the most obvious example, if you're training to be an orchestral musician in school, then your prospects for actually becoming an orchestral musician aren't really that great anymore. It used to be 100 years ago or more that there were tons of orchestras around, right? Regional orchestras, city orchestras, little town orchestras, and so there were plenty of opportunities. Yeah, I'm sure it was still challenging back then, but many orchestras have closed over the past 100 years because of the rise of recorded music and changes in taste and now the internet. And so much has changed over the past 100, 200 years in the musical world, except for the focus of a lot of music schools, which is still based on or directed towards helping young musicians become orchestral players or operatic singers in in theaters and all this kind of thing, which is great. So great if you want to do that and pursue that. But the problem is that those opportunities aren't really there, at least not in the same ways as they were before. And so this is just one example of how a lot of schools are still kind of stuck in the past. Outdated values, outdated skills, outdated focus. And so this is a big reason why you might be feeling unprepared, because you're unprepared. You might be feeling lost because you're unprepared for life as a musician now, the 21st century. So much has changed, the internet, AI. I mean, even 30 years ago, things were so different. And a lot of music schools struggle to keep up with the changes. And, this goes way beyond, including classes on recorded music or, I don't know, just bringing the internet into the classroom. I mean, this goes much, much deeper. And so what we really need then is a wholesale redefinition of what it means to be a musician in today's world. And this is where my work really lies. This is where I can support people. And so anyway, so just to wrap up this diagnosis, so when you're focused, or when your music training is based in the 19th century, when a lot of music schools were founded, the whole conservatory system, that this kind of training tends to sap your well-being. For instance, you won't have many classes on like how to deal with pressure and stage fright and injuries and self-doubt and just getting enough sleep. Like all that kind of stuff is sidelined. It's not a major focus if it's included at all. And now, of course, not all schools are like that, but a lot of schools are like that. And as well, the focus tends to be on developing your technique, developing all the skills you'd need to take auditions and maybe have a solo or orchestral career or something like that. And so anything else like physical, mental, spiritual well-being, career skills, a bigger sense of purpose, all that gets lost. It's not included. And so this is why you probably feel lost. So I had a very similar story in all this, which is why I have any authority to say any of this. So like I said, I'm a violinist, and I went to conservatory, and when I graduated, I felt completely lost. Now, my situation was even more intensified. Not only did I not have like career skills, I was also uninterested in getting an orchestral job or having a soloist career at that point, like a classical solo career. And so all this training that I'd undergone was pretty useless for me. And not only that, I had so many injuries in my arms. I had repetitive strain injuries in both arms. I could barely play. I could barely practice. And those injuries happened during my music school training. And largely as a result of the high pressure situation there, the lack of support for well-being, the lack of awareness on like the mind-body connection and how the way you think affects how your body moves and how that affects your music. And none of that was a part of the focus at the school. There were a lot of great things that I learned there. It wasn't all bad, but all that was to say that my experience really put this whole question about feeling lost into sharp focus. It took me a long time to find a deeper sense of purpose. And I did find that. I did find direction in my own career, and I'm very grateful for that. But my hope is today to shorten that process for you. It took me a long time. And so here are 3 steps that you can take, or 3 different aspects on building a career that you love, where you no longer feel lost, where you have that sense of direction, where you know where you're going and you love where you're going and you have the skills to get there. Yeah, there's so many birds around here. They're really loud. Okay, so number 1 is to get in touch with your artistic purpose. If you recall my book title just a couple minutes ago, I was saying, well, the subtitle of my book is How to Discover Your Artistic Purpose. So what is that? Your artistic purpose. It's the deeper why that brought you to the arts in the first place. It's the motivation underneath the motivation. It's what's yours to bring into the world through your music, through your art. And when you get in touch with that, then you have a sense of direction. You know what you're about. You know what you're doing. You know what you want to create, and you know why you want to create. and it provides a real sense of energy and direction and purpose, which is just so essential. And it's essential on so many levels. It's essential for the creative act itself, what kinds of opportunities you pursue or don't, what kinds of students you accept or don't. Clarifies basically every question that you could ask. Do I take this opportunity or that opportunity, or do I make this kind of music or that kind of music? And it also informs your values, or is a product of your values. And I'll tell you, one of the things that you really don't want to have happen is to put all this time and energy into a career that's not aligned with your values. So one way of aligning your career with your values that I really love, finding your artistic purpose, is to fully take account of your death. So you could, I know that might sound morbid, but this is really important. Think of like when you're on your deathbed, what will you want your career to have looked like, your musical life, your life overall? So here's a question. You could do some journaling around this question. Knowing that one day I'll die, what would I like to create, do, have, or be? And similarly, you could put the question the other way. Knowing that one day I'm going to die, what else would I not like to do, have, be, or create? And when you do that, so just spend some time this week writing down a big list for both the things that you would and you wouldn't do, have, be, or create, really integrating the knowledge of your death. This will make your priorities very clear and help you understand your purpose. I'll give you a hint. Your purpose, your deepest soul's artistic purpose, is probably not to gain fame or money or power or status. All those things might happen, and they can be nice when they do. And I'm not saying don't pursue those things, because they all have their time and place. But it's also possible to pursue those things and end up being very, very unhappy and very, very unfulfilled creatively. And so your purpose is probably going to be more in alignment with something like bringing more life into the world. If you think about your death, if you think even beyond your death, let's say you believe in reincarnation, what would you like the world to look like after your death because of your presence? That's the essence of the question. Okay, step number two is to focus on your well-being. Okay, so this is your physical well-being, emotional, mental, spiritual. Your music is an emanation of who you are. It is not separate. And if you want to be bringing more life into the world, then you yourself have to come more alive. And this is in the musical act, this is in every area of your life. So this is like basic stuff, like eating well, whole foods, cutting out the processed foods, exercising, sleeping well, cutting out any drugs and alcohol, that kind of stuff. I mean, again, everything has its place. But overall, focusing on your health that way, as well as something like Alexander technique, which is something I teach, and it's a big part of my life. Learning how to move more freely. I mean, this is so important, and especially if you have a lot of tension when you play, injuries when you play, focusing on something like Alexander technique is going to be hugely helpful. And then learning techniques for releasing limiting beliefs, working with difficult emotions. I mean, I wish this stuff was taught in school. It's not. I teach it to all my students, though. because it's so useful. And of course, purpose is part of your spiritual well-being, you might say. So understanding that and getting in touch with that is very important. Okay, so step number 3 is, in terms of your career, the nuts and bolts, the getting your name out there, building the career you'd love. I'll say this, it's about relationships. So I've done a lot of work trying to build my own career in lots of different ways, and I've read a lot of marketing books and had marketing coaches and social media coaches and all that kind of thing, and a lot of the conventional marketing really just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for a lot of people. Partly because the conventional approach is aligned with a smaller sense of self, a narrower sense of self. And this is why it can feel icky to some. Although there's kind of a interesting turnaround in that, thinking about selfishness, if you're like acting selfishly, this is one of the fears around a lot of marketing and selling, that it would lead to being selfish. And yet, if you expand your sense of self, like I was talking about earlier with my thoughts on artistic purpose and acknowledging your death, like what you're doing in that exercise is expanding your sense of self. Like what impact do I want to have on the world beyond my individual sense of self to the larger self, which is the whole world. So that can be a very different kind of selfishness, right? So in any case, so all the marketing stuff is fine, it's useful to know, and I still use a lot of those skills, copywriting and branding and getting your social media presence and all that kind of stuff. Selling tickets, it's all important, all has its place. And yet what's I find more satisfying for my soul and for just baseline effectiveness is just building relationships. Your network is your net worth, as they say. And it goes beyond net worth, although that is true. But it's also your artistic purpose. Your contribution will come through your network, the quality of connections you have, and the quantity. And so I would highly suggest just getting to know all the other musicians in your area, music schools, people who are sort of related to music, like other people in similar kinds of fields who might be able to hire you for this or that. Getting to know parents groups in the area if you want to be a teacher, all those kinds of things. So there is a place for marketing, it's just that the marketing that I'm suggesting looks very different than any kind of hard selling. It's building relationships with the people who can bring you business and who you can serve the best and who bring you joy to serve. It's very, very, very important. So just make a huge list of the people you enjoy serving, the people who you love playing music for, the kinds of students you love teaching, and go through all the people in your area, look them up online, send them emails, make calls, set up coffee dates, just get to know them. And then sit back and watch the magic happen. Okay. Whew. That's all for now. So I'll leave you with this. So getting in touch with your artistic purpose, focusing on relationship building, focusing on well-being, these 3 things together will help you get in touch with your soul force. And your soul force is that transformative quality, that creative energy that comes through you when you face your challenges from a place of wholeness, aliveness, and connection. Sometimes people call soul force the X factor. It's the same thing. And you can get in touch with your X factor, your soul force. When you do, you'll find that sense of direction, that sense of purpose and meaning and creative fulfillment, and opportunities will just come to you, and you'll get the recognition and audience love that you deserve and that you want. And otherwise, in other words, no longer feeling lost and building the music career that you love. So I hope you found this helpful. And if you'd like to get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. Very curious to get to know who you are and to see if I can help support you. I have tons of tools and skills to impart in terms of the act of playing music itself, or how to orient in life. So please do get in touch. Soulforcearts.com. Sign up for my mailing list. You can get free PDFs and that kind of thing. And also check out my book. I'd like to give you a copy of that, or have you read one. So anyway, that's all for now, and I'll see you next time.